Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We wanted to talk about our next session right now. It's about caregivers' mental health and mental health in general. This is one of our specialty topics, and I do know that especially with COVID being very aware of everyone's situation, I know that we all need to make kind of a tabs on our mental health these days. So I want to introduce to you Laurie Miller. She's a clinical social worker in the Department of Neurology and Neurosurgery at the Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. So Laurie, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And I was just telling Natalie that if you see anybody, or Nicole, if you see cats walking behind me, that I have cats, so they might join the presentation. So I just wanted to give a heads up. Yes, I work at Children's Hospital, and I've been working there for almost 6 years, and I'm really excited to be here. So you can go to the next slide. So this is a really important topic. I have been working in the neuromuscular clinic at Children's Hospital pretty much the entire time I've been there, almost 6 years. And a lot of times we focus on, it's easy to focus on the patient and the patient's mental health, but one of the things that I often hear from the parents is also the caregiver stress and caregivers' mental health, and what they're struggling with as well as parents caring for a child with a neuromuscular disease. And one of the things that I wanted to share in terms of the statistics of this is there was a study that was done with caregivers of children with neuromuscular diseases, and some of these children were in wheelchairs and some not, and some had the disease had progressed and some the disease hadn't progressed. And what they found was it didn't matter if the patient was in a wheelchair or the disease had progressed significantly, or it was a mild, the disease hadn't progressed as much, or the patient wasn't in a wheelchair, that the stress on the caregiver was still significant. It was about 71%. And then also the effect on the caregiver's physical health, just the stress of caring for a child with neuromuscular disease was 80%. And then effect on caregiver's mood, and what I mean by that is depression or anxiety or fatigue, or just not having an interest at all in doing things and feeling very overwhelmed by the care that needs to be provided to the child, was about 68%. And then reduced leisure time for the caregiver was around 90%. I've often found that when I talk to parents, they will say to me that the amount of time that they're caring for their child, they don't really have the time to rest or to do anything like a hobby for themselves. And I'm often saying that it is so important, and we're going to get into that as I talk more, just some of the things that can be done. So next slide, please. So one of the things I wanted to start off with is, what is caregiver burnout? A lot of people will often say, I feel so tired, I don't feel motivated, I don't feel like I can do this, I feel really overwhelmed. And I wanted to share about the signs first and the definition of what caregiver burnout is described, how it's described. And the definition of caregiver burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that may be accompanied by a change in attitude from positive and caring to negative and unconcerned. Next slide, please. And then another definition was, a caregiver with burnout has become overwhelmed and is physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted from the stress and burden of caring for their loved one. So one of the key things that I often talk with parents about is, how are you doing physically? How are you doing emotionally? And how are you doing mentally? Because depending on the answers that I get to those three questions can determine how I'm going to assist them, the parent, you as the parent, in terms of whether you're just in stress, which is a big thing, or you've moved into burnout. And we're going to talk more about that. So what does it look like? So signs and symptoms, stress versus burnout. So we all have stress, right? We have jobs, we have family, other family members. And for those who are caring for a child with neuromuscular disease, there's the stress, there's that stress, but there's also, you have other obligations and things that, you're caring for the family and the household and or going to a job. And so the signs of stress are irritability. You just feel very agitated, feeling tired and run down. And these are all common, the things that I'm gonna share right now. Stress is stress. We all get it. It's when we move to another place of burnout. So stress, some of the signs are also having a hard time sleeping. So how are you sleeping at night? Are you waking up intermittently? Are you not sleeping at all? Are you just not able to have restful sleep? Overreacting to things that were easy to handle before. This could be something as simple as dishes in the sink. Normally that's not a big deal, but suddenly it becomes this huge thing. Effect to your health, getting sick easily. Do you get the flu a lot? Are you just feeling like you get a cold, or you just generally don't feel good? Hard time concentrating. This is a big one. Just that scattered mind. You can't focus on things that you used to be able to focus on. Feelings of resentment, which I know can be a hard one to hear or to feel, but I am always telling my parents that it is okay to have feelings of anger or to feel upset about the situation. That does not make you a bad parent. It does not make you not doing a good job. This is all normal. So feeling some resentment towards the situation, eating, smoking, drinking, getting into behaviors that before were very normal. You eat your 3 meals a day, or you eat okay, but you take on something that is helping you cope. Not tending to your responsibilities, just basically like, I don't want to do it. I just can't do this anymore. And then reducing your leisure activities, which I had shared about in the study, that not doing things for yourself. So next slide, please. This is what burnout looks like. So that was stress. And now we're going to talk about burnout, which is a much more serious thing. When you get into burnout, it can be very challenging without proper help to get above that. If you're not taking care of yourself, it's almost like forced. That's the way I look at it, is like you're to the point where you've crossed the line from just the average stress of the care to suddenly like not being able to do anything. So signs of burnout: energy that you once had has reduced significantly. So maybe you could exercise regularly, or go on a hike, or you were able to clean the house or go to your job. And then now you just have no energy to do any of those things. Again, getting sick a lot with a cold or a flu. Are you often going to the doctor or taking medicine because you don't feel well? And then always exhausted, even when you have slept or rested. This is a big one. A big sign of burnout is when you've been able to sleep and been able to have that time to rest and take it easy a little bit. And then you still don't feel rested when you wake up in the morning. You just continue to feel tired. No attention to your own needs, loss of interest, and not having time. So again, as I stated before, a lot of times parents will come to me and just say, my child is my priority, and I can't do anything else. And I often will say, there's that saying, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help anyone else. And it is very true. If you are not tending to your own needs or doing what you need to do, it's going to be very hard to show up for anyone else fully. So when you're in burnout, you just don't want to do anything. That's what it looks like. The individual wants to just sit down and not do anything, or sleep, or and doesn't want to do activities. If friends invite you places, parents will often say no. everything becomes about the caregiving without any satisfaction. So all you're doing and all you're spending your time on is caring for your loved one, which honestly is wonderful that you're doing that. And I know that it's important, and it's also really important to take care of yourself. Difficulty relaxing when you're able to. So you might decide to just watch TV or read a book, and you can't seem to relax, and your mind doesn't shut down, and you just feel like in that heightened sense all the time. And oftentimes your nervous system is in overdrive. That's what it looks like. You just can't seem to slow down or calm down. Impatient and irritable with the person you are caring for. So you might get short with your loved one, with your child, and you feel impatient, and you don't want to do it, and you feel agitated. That's also another sign. And then feeling helpless and hopeless, which was the number one thing related to burnout, was that feeling of hopelessness and just feeling helpless, like there's nowhere to go. More severe signs of burnout, where it can get into clinical stuff. And when I say clinical, where you might then need additional outside support, is depression. And depression can take many different forms. It can look like not sleeping at all. It can look like sleeping too much. It can look like not eating. It can look like eating a lot, not focusing, no interest, no joy, feeling empty. And then anxiety, there's a normal anxiety, and then there's just feeling in that heightened state all the time. And then there's the subclinical stress, which ultimately becomes a diagnosis of stress, where it is more severe, where the stress has just taken on its own life, and you're going to need additional support from a doctor to manage it. Ambivalence about the care, you just don't care. It one way or the other, you just are going through the motions. Witnessing the suffering of your relative is also a big one. You are the parent that is caring for your child, and you are taking care of them. And when you are seeing that, I have a lot of parents come to me and very tearful, and just talking to me about the difficulty of watching what their child is going through. And that can also weigh significantly on a person emotionally and physically, and mentally. And then easily irritated or upset. Again, this one has been stated quite often in this so far, that yes, being very irritated and upset all the time, crying uncontrollably can be one. And you just think, why am I crying at this thing? It's not a big deal, but you do. Feeling isolated and abandoned by others. What is your support system? Do you feel like you have support? Are you feeling alone? There's no one there to ask for help from. And then there's the anticipatory grief. And anticipatory grief is that grief that you're sort of anticipating what's coming up, or if there's progression of the disease, of the neuromuscular disease, there's that anticipatory grief of what's it going to look like in 3 months? What's it going to look like in a year? How is my child going to be? And that is a real thing. And that anticipatory grief weighs on you, because you're always thinking, what's this going to be like? How's it going to unfold? Okay, next slide, please. So one thing that you can do, it's called a caregiver self-assessment questionnaire. And you can go to this link and download it. And the questionnaire talks a lot about like it's geared towards how are you feeling, and asking you the questions about, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So one of it is, I was trying to get this bigger, but it's a little bit, so having trouble keeping my mind on what I was doing is, and then you can assess it, yes or no. Other questions is, had difficulty making decisions. That's another one. Feel completely overwhelmed. So you can do this assessment, and then you can score it, and it will let you know you can identify if you're more in stress or if you are getting into a place of burnout. So this is a good tool. All right, next slide. So I want to talk about, I've talked a lot about what it is and what it looks like. And now I want to get to the hope of it and the help that's there. There are a lot of helpful tools, and I found a lot of these, if you are not connected to the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation near you, or in your area, or even the national office, I'm going to highly encourage you to get connected. They have a lot of great resources and a lot of support. So one of the helpful tools, first as I talked about earlier, there was the helplessness and the hopelessness of it. Oops. Uh-oh.
Give me 1 minute.
No problem.
Oh my goodness.
No worries. I was going to say I'm not a dietitian, but it all looks really great.
Oh my goodness.
The technology decided to.
I'm getting a new mouse after this.
That's
I'm
okay.
So sorry.
No worries. Don't worry. You know, what's a presentation without a little, fun?
Oh gosh, sorry.
So, okay. So as I talked about earlier with feeling helpless and hopeless, one of the key things that's important to do is to start empowering yourself as a parent. The more empowered that you feel, I know that I've seen this with the parents that I work with, the more empowered that they are with the care and with themselves, the better they are able to navigate their child's care. So one of the things is, it's very hard to be in acceptance. Caring for a child with a neuromuscular disease, it's hard to get to a place of acceptance, especially if it's a new diagnosis or you just got this information recently and you haven't had time to absorb it. It can be very hard to get to that place, but it doesn't have to all happen at one time. It can be just baby steps of practicing acceptance. And what that looks like is being in the moment and knowing yourself as the caregiver, starting to embrace it a little bit more, and then trying to focus on the positives of being in that role is another way that you can practice acceptance as the parent. It's, again, it's not always easy to take it in and to say, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing now. But if you can find little things that are positive about it, like are you connecting more with your child? Are you connecting more with other people? Are you connecting more with yourself? And looking for the silver linings. What is good about being the caregiver? What are some blessings that you might see in the day-to-day of taking care of your child? And again, it could be more of just slowing down and connecting with you and your loved one. And then maintaining balance between your role as the caregiver and then tending to your own needs. Balance, balance, balance. I am always saying this to my parents, that it is so important to balance that role, because it is very easy for it to go one way or the other. And as I shared earlier, it's often towards the caregiving only and not doing anything for yourself. So maybe you want to take a bath or eat some healthy meal, a good meal, or go for a short walk if you're able to, if someone can take care of your child. I know if you're a single parent, that can be a little bit harder. But if you have a friend that could step in and be there while you just take a little break, focus on what you can control. So, you might feel powerless over things, and that's okay. But what can you control in this situation of caring for your loved one? And then acknowledge the wins. Like, hey, a win could be, oh my gosh, my child is taking his or her medication. Like, this is great. Or maybe we got to the doctor's visit and there was something that the doctor said that was really good today. Or acknowledging yourself for the fact that you got up and you got out of bed and you showed up and you're doing the best that you can moment by moment. Next slide, please. All right, next one, very important. As I said, putting your own oxygen mask on first, and then you get support, ask for help. I come across a lot of parents who don't want to ask for help. They don't want to be, they often will say to me, well, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to, put this burden on any of my family members. They have their own lives. They're really busy. I cannot stress enough the importance of getting support. It could be a faith-based community. Maybe it's your church. Maybe you have a trusted friend that you can talk to about how you're feeling and the feelings that are coming up, or a family member. I know that that's not always the case. So I encourage you, again, to get involved with the Muscular Dystrophy Association and maybe meet some parents through that, through connecting with them or going to an event. If someone offers to help you, say yes. It's hard, I know. Listen, it's hard for me to say yes when people will ask how they can help me. And it's so important. So I really encourage you, like if somebody's offering to take a load off, maybe just doing your dishes or taking the trash out, say yes, let them do it, because you're giving them a gift as well, letting them help you. The next thing is take breaks. It's very important that you give yourself that space and time when you can. Tend to your personal relationships. If you have friends trusted friends, or you have some family members or a church community, don't let that go. Find a way to incorporate those relationships into this caregiving place, so that you don't let that support go, because it's so important that you have that through this. Find a hobby and get involved with something that brings you happiness. It could just be reading a really good book, or like I said earlier, taking a bath, going for a walk. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, and it doesn't have to cost any money. It could be just listening to one of your favorite songs on the radio, or on Spotify, or one of those music apps, and just listen to the song for 5-10 minutes, and then go back to what you're doing and what you need to do. Pamper yourself. I know this can be really hard and it might sound really weird, but if you have the time, just to sit quietly, or doing your nails might be a little bit hard, but it doesn't have to be any of these three things, but just something that you feel good when you do it. It lifts your spirits. And then find ways for laughter. Laughter's really important. It can get very serious, and it is serious. And I also encourage my families to find ways to make things lighthearted and also laugh at things, because again, you don't want it to go into a place of where you just feel sad all the time, or burnt out all the time, or stressed all the time. It's important to find ways for laughter, and then get out of the house. It's being cooped up in the home day in and day out. And I know right now it's a little bit harder because we are in this situation with safer at home and the quarantine. But if you have a backyard, can you go out in your backyard? Could you stand on your front porch and just get some fresh air? Those are small ways where you don't have to necessarily go far away from the home. All right, next slide, please. Tend to your own health needs. Keep your doctor's visits. Don't let those go. It's another one, big one with my families that I will tell parents, do not let your own health needs go. Again, you need to be strong in yourself and taking care of your own needs so that you are able to show up for your child as best as you are able. And then exercise regularly if you can. It doesn't have to be anything. It could be 10 minutes, and you can break it up. You could do 10 minutes in the morning of, just a short little walk or something in the home, movement, and then another 10 minutes later in the afternoon. Practice relaxation techniques, yoga, There are a lot of apps, free yoga. UCLA has a wonderful online yoga classes called Mark. And there's meditations, there's free apps for meditation. You can just go on your phone. Insight Timer is a really great one. It's free. Calm is another one. Mindfulness, just focusing on where you are in the moment. What do you see? How are you feeling in the moment? What do you smell? There are the five senses. Go back to your five senses if it starts to feel overwhelming. Deep breathing is another big one. You can practice that just sitting down on your couch or a chair and just taking 5 deep breaths, slow deep breaths in and 5 slow deep breaths out. Eat well as best as you can. I know that this isn't always an easy one when you might be feeling rushed or you're just not having the time to make necessarily a healthy meal or a meal that you think is healthy, but it's important if you can try to eat as best as you can and eat as well as you can to keep your energy up. Don't skip meals, don't not eat, and get adequate sleep. This is a big one. Sleep, it's a big one that I see also, parents who aren't getting enough sleep. When we don't get enough sleep, it affects everything. It colors everything. And often our decision making, our ability to cope is affected by not getting adequate sleep. All right, next slide, please. Oh, I think next one. So a couple of resources that I wanted to talk about. So I did talk about depression and anxiety and stress and burnout earlier. It's okay to get help from a therapist. I will talk to parents about this quite a bit, that if you need someone to talk to and you need a professional to help you navigate some of the stress that's coming up and just even just dealing with being a parent of a child who has a chronic illness, there's great resources out there, and you can reach out to me. I'm happy to help you with that process if you're feeling that that's something that you need. Respite through, if you have regional center, if your child qualifies for a regional center, or you have a friend or a family member that can give you a break, take the time to take the break. It might feel weird, and you might, for that half hour, just sit there and not really know what to do. That's okay. You can just sit there. That's fine. It doesn't have to be a big thing. You might not know what to do because you've been so busy, caring for your child, and it might feel weird at first. There's a wonderful, I found this, the MDA Guide for Caregivers. It's a wonderful, it's wonderful in that it has resources, but it also has helpful ways in like caring for your child and other resources that your child might be eligible for, like in-home support services and as I said, regional center, and a lot of different and valuable tools in that guide that I found. If you have a local MDA organization near you, as I said, I highly recommend getting involved with them. They have wonderful events. At the neuromuscular clinic that I work in, we have a lot of MDA reps come and speak with the parents about the different events that are happening and resources that are available. You can also reach out to the National Center, and I've provided the phone number here. If you are connected with an MDA clinic, a neuromuscular clinic, speak to your social worker. It's okay to ask, hey, do you have a social worker? Can I speak to him or her? I'd really like to get some more resources and more support. And then, as I said, contact your local MDA. There's really some really valuable resources that they provide. There's camps, and there's a lot of different events, and I've often heard great stories from my parents about how they've connected with other parents And then the child that has a neuromuscular disease with another, they've connected with another child and they've become quite close. So it's a great opportunity to also find additional support and relationships. So you're not feeling so alone, like you're doing it all by yourself, and with people who relate. There's also in your area, there might, I don't know if I put this on here, but I don't think I did. There's also support groups is another one. You can go to your local, you could talk to your MDA and see if they know of any local support groups where you can meet other parents and you sit and talk about what it's like to be a caregiver of a child with a neuromuscular disease. And the best, I have often heard that from parents that the best support that they've gotten really is meeting someone else who can relate to what they're going through, and you have a common bond in that. So next slide, please. All right, well, thank you so much for letting me share. And here are my credits, the things that I cited from. If you want to see more, and if you want, I'm happy to give my contact information if anyone needs to reach out to me for any additional resources and support. I'm more than happy to help.
Thank you, Laurie, very much. We did have a couple questions come in.
Mm-hmm.
Can you possibly give us some advice on how to reduce anxiety for future unknown deterioration of conditions that we're living with on a daily basis?
Yes, I mean, one thing is, you know, anxiety often happens when we're, as I shared earlier, we're feeling very powerless and we're feeling very out of control. And there's yogas, if you're able to do anything that has to do with centering and grounding and breathing is a really good technique to help with anxiety. When you start to feel yourself getting anxious, to just stop, take a breath, take a minute. I know we're in very uncertain times. It might also be seeking a therapist to help with some of that anxiety and support. Those are other things. I think staying in the moment, because it is very uncertain right now, and it's very easy to start to get into what is going to happen, what is happening with the state of things. And all we can do is like stay in today. And the more that you can stay in the present and just focus on what's the next thing you need to do right now. And, you know, I have this saying like next indicated action, right? So it might just be, I'm going to go wash the dishes. Just going to do that. It might be, I'm going to just sit down for 10 minutes. But the more that you can stay in today and in the moment, I have found that it can alleviate some of the anxiety, because a lot of it is just the unknown, not knowing what's going to happen. So
someone asked, the regional center, is that in your area, or what is the regional center?
So regional center is, it's an agency that for children 0 to 3 who have any high risk medical or cognitive automatically qualify.
Okay.
And after 3 years old, what they do is they'll evaluate again. And then if there's developmental delay, cognitive delay, then they will continue to follow the child. If not, then the child is transferred into the school system with an IEP or a 504. So regional center provides services such as behavioral therapy. If your child is, they have psychiatrists, they have physical therapy, occupational therapy. If I have a young one that comes in who is 0 to 3, this is one of the first resources I give to the parent is get connected with your regional center. You can, they used to have it where you could plug in your zip code and then they would tell you which one was closest to your house. But if I don't know where you live, a lot of these are in the LA area or even like Lancaster or Palmdale, they have them all over. So they have them close to your house. So you would just want to try to see if you can plug in your zip code. And if you want, you can reach out to me and I can see if I can find out for you. I'm happy to do that. I can, I don't know where I can leave my contact. Can I leave my contact information or say it out loud and people
You can say it.
Okay. I'm going to give you my contact information. If you want to write this down, my contact at the hospital, it's my direct line. There's no extension, is 323-361-6647. And my email, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. Email is laumiller@chla.usc.edu.
All right. And I just type that in to everyone.
Great.
So
yeah. So feel free to reach out. And I know that some of our participants are in, I believe, Arizona and Nevada. Yeah. Is that correct? So I'm not sure what is equivalent in Arizona and Nevada, but I can certainly work with you or talk to you and we can figure that out.
That would be great. That's great. Thank you, Laurie. Well, thank you very much. I definitely appreciate your time. We didn't see any cats, so they must be taking a nap.
There's one over here taking a nap. The other one's playing with a box in the other room. I know. I'm telling you, every time I get on a video call, they're fine. And then the minute I get on a video call, they want to be part of it. So I'm quite happy that they did not make an appearance. So thank you for having me. This was
thank you very much, Laurie. Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your information. I hope people will find that useful and reach out.
Please reach out anytime.
All right, perfect. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have genetic testing session, which is our last session for the day. And Dr. Herman will be presenting, and we will begin in about 15 minutes. So we will come back at 12:10. So please stay tuned, and thank you very much.
Okay.